Hello there. Welcome to the watch party with me, Graham Hughes. We'll be going over to Parliament in a few moments when Liz Kendall takes to her feet, which apparently is going to be any second now. Apparently it's half 12. Sorry about that intro there. Played the outro instead of the intro. What is this? Amateur hour. So we're still getting questions to Ed Miliband at the moment over here. MPs are putting topical questions to the about energy security and net zero, which obviously Kemi Badenoch was talking about yesterday because she's an idiot, saying that we're not going to get to net zero by 2050. There's nothing like Tory ambition, is there, to just not do anything and sit on their hands all day. One Are You Pagans in the chat? I'm on disability universal credit, so this concerns me. Billy Kershaw, badges await. Sean says, afternoon, badgers. Badger chat. Martin saying, good afternoon, lurkers. Hi, I'm myself. It's a sunny blue skies, and I can't be asked. Thankfully, I'm supposed to be working in an empty house, so no one will know. Brilliant. We've got SG there saying, hello, all gorgeous day here in Manchester, gorgeous day here in Durham as well. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat here, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button. Can't find the any key. It's a Simpsons joke from a long time ago. If you hit that button, you'll be able to add your voice to the chat. But don't be a troll, because that's not very nice. Sarah says, I'm terrified. Sarah, honestly, it won't be as bad as the tabloids have made out. I can tell you that now. But aside from that, let's reserve judgment until we actually have heard what Liz Kendall's got to say. And once we have heard what she's got to say, let rage be unconstrained if that's what's needed, if that's what's required. Alvone says, Labour, stop attacking disabled people. This happens every time the country is in the crapper. It's not the fault of disabled people. Like, yeah. It does seem like an easy target. I'm punching down. But like I say, we haven't heard the statement yet. We don't know exactly what she's going to say. Hope for the best. Prepare for the worst. So this is going on a little bit over here on the feed. They're still asking questions about net zero. So I don't know. We'll just have a little chat. Shall we declare it Honorary Wednesday? Says Gallifrey and Ren. Ooh, we're not quite there yet, are we? We've got. Are you cool? Be cool. says Billy Kershaw. Yeah, we're going to be like three little Fonzies. That's what we're going to be like. As a lifelong Labour voter, why must they let us down? Well, hopefully they won't. But if they do, I'm not going to hold back in my criticisms for them. Currently, this is Adrian Ramsey is on his feet. Obviously, I don't have the sound on. I could put the sound on if you wanted. He's the leader of the Green Party, well, the co-leader of the Green Party, along with Carla Denia. Fear is like anger. You mustn't give in to it. Says Yoda. Sorry, one angry Yoda. Sean says, it's crunch time, deep breaths, everyone. Usual, the devil is in the details. Well, I've got a big pad and a pen. Sarah says, I ended up self-harming last night. This is how I cope with extreme stress. I'm really sorry to hear that, Sarah. I wish there were other coping mechanisms that were less harmful that you could use. It's really shit. It's really fucking shit. The way that Labour have gone about talking about this and making a marginalised group in society, a group that is, finds everyday life just much more difficult than other people. Just adding this extra stress, I think, is just completely out of order. So whatever comes of this, and I'm hoping it's not going to be as bad as it's been made out in the tabloids, whatever comes of it, I hope that we all take a moment to, if we can, get in touch with our MPs and tell them we're really, really not happy, with the way that this was conducted and how stressful it was. And Sarah, if you get the chance to say that and say that to your MP, in an email or something, please do. Or if you get someone else to write on your behalf and explain just how bad it's been. Zansukan Amy, Zansukan Amy. It's easy to say when their benefits don't mean just about cover their still rising rent. Yeah, exactly, Amy. I couldn't agree more. I think there's a lot of people in this country who just can no longer imagine what it's like living from paycheck to paycheck. Don't forget, 1 in 5 pensioners in this country are millionaires. 1 in 5 are living in poverty. That's the gulf at the moment, and is an absolute gulf. Lindsay Hoyle's on his feet. Okay, so this is over, and Keir Starmer is filtering in. Sorry, I took you away from the feed there. We've got Angela Rayner coming in there, and also Rachel Rees. So they're obviously getting ready for this big address. They've cut the sound, so there's no sound now anyway, for you or for me. I'll just read a few more texts. Just Hannah is saying, just remember, this is only a green paper.
We continue proceedings. I'd like to pay tribute to John Parry Hemingway, the last surviving Battle of Britain pilot, who died yesterday at the age of 105. Mr. Hemingway was a teenager when he joined the RAF during the Second World War. At the age of 21, when he was a fighter pilot in the Battle of Britain. A 3-month air campaign in 1940 to protect the southern part of England and British shipping from large-scale assault by the Luftwaffe. There is no doubt that the courage and overwhelming sense of duty by the RAF pilots, like Mr. Hemingway, helped end the Second World War and allowed us the freedoms we enjoy today. Order, order. We now must come to the statement. Secretary of State for Works and Pensions, Liz Kendall.
There you go.
Mr. Speaker, this government is ambitious for our people and our country, and we believe that unleashing the talents of the British people is the key to our future success. But the social security system we inherited from the Conservatives is failing the very people it is supposed to help and holding our country back. The facts speak for themselves. 1 in 10 people of working age now claiming a sickness or disability benefit. Almost 1 million young people not in education, employment or training. That's 1 in 8 of all our young people. 2.8 million out of work due to long-term sickness. And the number of people claiming personal independence payments set to double this decade from 2 to 4.3 million, with the growth in claims rising faster among young people and mental health conditions, and with claims up to 4 times higher in parts of the Midlands, Wales and the North, where economic demand is weakest. Places that were decimated in the 80s and 90s, written off for years by successive Tory governments and never given the chances they deserve. And the consequences of this failure are there for all to see. Millions of people who could work, trapped on benefits, denied the income, hope, dignity and self-respect that we know good work brings. And taxpayers paying millions more on the costs of failure, with spending on working age sickness and disability benefits up 20 billion since the pandemic, set to rise by a further 18 billion by the end of this Parliament to 70 billion pounds a year. And it is not like this in most other comparable countries, where spending on these benefits since the pandemic is either stable or falling, whilst ours continues to inexorably rise. This is the legacy of 14 years of Tory failure. Today, Mr. Speaker, we say no more. Since we were elected, we have hit the ground running to get more people into good work through our plan for change. We're investing an extra £26 billion into the NHS to drive down waiting lists and get people back to health and back to work. We're improving the quality of work and making work pay with our landmark employment rights legislation and increases in the national living wage. We're creating more good jobs in every part of the country, in clean energy and through our modern industrial strategy. And we are introducing the biggest reforms to employment support in a generation with our £240 million Get Britain Working plan. Today, our Pathways to Work Green Paper sets out decisive
Pathways
action to fix the broken benefits system, creating a more proactive, pro-work system for those who can work, and so we protect it for those who cannot work now and for the long term. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, I know as a constituency MP for 14 years that there will always be people who can never work because of the severity of their disability or illness. Under this government, the social security system will always be there for people in genuine need. That is a principle we will never compromise on. Yeah. But disabled people and people with health conditions who can work should have the same rights, choices and chances to work as everybody else. Yeah. That principle of equality is vital too. Because far from what members opposite would have you believe, many sick and disabled people want to work with the right help and support. And unlike the Conservatives, that is what we will deliver. Mr. Speaker, our first aim is to secure a decisive shift towards prevention and early intervention. Almost 4 million people are in work with a work-limiting health condition, and around 300,000 fall out of work every year. So we've got to do far more to help people stay in work and get back to work quickly, because your chances of returning are 5 times higher in the first year. Our plans to give statutory sick pay for 1 million of the lowest paid workers and more rights to flexible working will help keep more people in work. The Work Well programme is trialling new approaches, like GPs referring people to employment advisors instead of signing them off sick. And our Keep Britain Working review, led by former John Lewis boss Sir Charlie Mayfield, will set out what government and employers can do together to create healthier, more inclusive workplaces. So we help more employers offer opportunities for disabled people, including through measures like reasonable adjustments, alongside our Green Paper consultation on reforming access to work so it is fit for the future. And today, I can announce another step. Our Green Paper will consult on a major reform of contributory benefits, merging contributions-based job seekers allowance and employment support allowance into a new time-limited unemployment insurance paid at a higher rate without having to prove you cannot work in order to get it. So if you have paid into the system, you'll get stronger income protection while we help you get back on track. Yeah. Our second objective is to restore trust and fairness in the benefits system by fixing the broken assessment process and tackling the perverse incentives that drive people into welfare dependency. Now, members on this side of the House have long argued that the work capability assessment is not fit for purpose. Going through the WCA is complex, time-consuming and often stressful for claimants, especially if they also have to go through the PIP
ridiculous
assessment.
If they've got a terminal
and more fundamentally, it's based on a binary can-can't work divide, when we know the truth is that many people's physical and mental health conditions fluctuate. The consultation on the Conservatives' discredited WCA proposals was ruled unlawful by the courts. So today I can announce we will not go ahead with their proposals. Instead, we will scrap the WCA in 2028. In future, extra financial support for health conditions in universal credit will be available solely through the PIP assessment. So extra income is based on the impact of someone's health condition or disability, not on their capacity to work.
Okay, that's
reducing the number of assessments that people have to go through, and a vital step towards de-risking work. And, Mr. Speaker, we will do more by legislating for a right to try, guaranteeing that work in and of itself will never lead to a benefit reassessment, giving people the confidence to take the plunge and try work without the fear this will put their benefits at risk. Mr. Speaker, we will also tackle the perverse financial incentives that the party opposite created, which actively encourage people into welfare dependency. The Tories ran down the value of the Universal Credit Standard Allowance, As a result, the health top-up is now worth double the standard allowance at more than £400 a month. And in 2017, they took away extra financial help for the group of people who could prepare for work. So we're left with a binary assessment of can or can't work and a clear financial incentive to define yourself as incapable of work, something the OBR, IFS and others say is a likely factor driving people onto incapacity benefits. Today, we tackle this problem head-on. We will legislate to rebalance the payments in universal credit from April next year, holding the value of the health top-up fixed in cash terms for existing claimants and reducing it for new claimants, with an additional premium for people with severe lifelong conditions that mean that they will never work, to give them the financial security they deserve. And alongside this, Mr. Speaker, we will bring in a permanent, above-inflation rise to the standard allowance in universal credit for the first time ever. A £775 annual increase in cash terms by 2029-30, and a decisive step to tackle the perverse incentives in the system. We will also fix the failing system of reassessments.
Going up.
The Conservatives failed to switch reassessments back on after the pandemic. So they're down by more than 2/3, with face-to-face assessments going from 7 in 10 to only 1 in 10. We will turn these reassessments back on at scale and shift the focus back to doing more face-to-face. And we will ensure they are recorded as standard to give confidence to claimants and taxpayers that they're being done properly. And, Mr. Speaker, I can also announce for people on universal credit with the most severe disabilities and health conditions that will never improve, we want to ensure that they are never reassessed to give them the confidence and dignity they deserve.
At least.
And we will fundamentally overhaul the DWP's safeguarding approach to make sure all our processes and training are of the highest quality, so we protect and support the most vulnerable people. Mr. Speaker, alongside these changes, we will also reform disability benefits, so they focus support on those in greatest need and to ensure the social security system lasts for the long term into the future. Social and demographic change means more people are now living with a disability, but the increase in disability benefits is double the rate of increasing prevalence of working age disability in the country, with claims amongst young people up 150%, for mental health conditions up 190%, and claims for learning difficulties up over 400%, according to the IFS. Every day, there are more than 1,000 new PIP awards. That's the equivalent of adding a population the size of Leicester every single year. Mr. Speaker, that is not sustainable long-term, above all for the people who depend on this support. But the Tories have no proper plan to deal with this, just yet more ill-thought-through consultations. So today I can announce this government will not bring in the Tory proposals for vouchers, because disabled people should have choice and control over their lives. We will not means test PIP, because disabled people deserve extra support, whatever their incomes. And, Mr. Speaker, I can confirm we will not freeze PIP either. Instead, our reforms will focus support on those with the greatest needs. We will legislate for a change in PIP, so people will need to score a minimum of 4 points in at least one activity to qualify for the daily living element of PIP from November 2026. This will not affect the mobility component of PIP and only relates to the daily living element. And alongside this, we will launch a review of the PIP assessment. led by my right honourable friend, the Minister for Social Security and Disability, in close consultation with disabled people, the organisations that represent them and other experts. So we make sure PIP and the assessment process is fit for purpose now and into the future. And Mr. Speaker, this is a significant reform package that is expected to save over £5 billion in 2029-30, and the OBR will set out their final assessment of the costings next week. Our third and final objective is to deliver personalised support to sick and disabled people who can work to get the jobs they need and deserve. We know from the last Labour government and our new deals for disabled people, young people and the long-term unemployed, the difference that proper employment support can make. And more recent evidence from the Work Choice programme and additional work coach time shows support can make a significant difference in the number of people getting work, keeping work and improving their mental health and well-being too. This Labour government believes that an active state can transform people's lives. We know this because we have done it before. So today I can announce we will invest an additional £1 billion a year for employment support with the aim of guaranteeing high-quality, tailored and personalised support to help people on a pathway to work. The largest ever investment in opportunities to work for sick and disabled people. And alongside this, for those on the UC Health top-up, we will bring in an expectation to engage and a new support conversation to talk about people's goals and aspirations, combined with an offer of personalised health skills and employment support. And because being out of work or training when you're young is so damaging for your future prospects, we will go further. In addition to funding our youth guarantee through the £240 million Get Britain working plan, we will consult on delaying access to the health top-up in universal credit until someone is aged 22, with the savings reinvested into work support and training opportunities, so every young person is earning or learning and on a pathway to success. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives left a broken benefit system that's failing the people who depend on it and our country as a whole. The status quo is unacceptable, but it is not inevitable. We were elected on a mandate for change, to end the sticking plaster approach and tackle the root causes of problems in this country that have been ignored for too long. Because we believe in the value and potential of every single person, that we all have something positive to contribute and can make a difference, whether that's in paid work, in our families or communities, alongside our neighbours and friends. We will unleash this potential in every corner of the land, because we are as ambitious for the British people as they are for themselves. Today we take decisive action, and I commend this statement to the House.
Wow, that was a lot.
Hello, Secretary of State Helen Whately.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I thank the Right Honourable Lady for advance sight of her statement. She and I agree on one thing. The welfare bill is too high. Left unchecked, it will rise to £100 billion by the end of the decade. Spending more on sickness benefits than we do on defence is not the sign of a strong country. And this isn't just a question of money. We have 3 million working-age people not working due to ill health, not filling the roles businesses need, not contributing to our economy, not fulfilling their own potential. Now, the best way to get the welfare bill down is to get people off benefits and into work. That is what we did year after year after taking office in 2010.
What?
Despite the once-in-a-century pandemic, there were 4 million more people in employment when we left office than the mess we inherited from Labour. Before the pandemic, economic inactivity was at a historic low. But it's true that then we started to see a new phenomenon, growing numbers of people claiming sickness benefits, and particularly worryingly, young people. A system set up with good intentions to protect the most vulnerable in society had over time morphed into something broader, driven in part by a well-intentioned but not always helpful medicalisation of life's ups and downs. In government, we identified this problem. We worked up plans to tackle it, but at every point, Labour opposed them. In fact, the Chancellor said that not one single penny could be saved from benefits. So when they came into office, not only did they cancel or delay pretty much everything we handed over, they had no plans of their own. They walked into the department with empty notebooks. All they've done in opposition is oppose, instead of the hard work of coming up with their own answers. That's why the country has had to wait another 8 months for this announcement. And in that time, taxpayers have shelled out $7 billion in extra sickness benefits. Nearly 500,000 people have been signed off sick. In fact, 60 people were signed onto sickness benefits while the Right Honourable Lady was talking. Nonetheless, I have been looking forward to hearing what she would announce today, and which of the many things briefed out to the media her spinning policy wheel would eventually land on. Governing is hard. We know that. In the last few weeks,
that's why we didn't do anything.
They have made it look really hard. But nothing compared to how hard life can be for a severely disabled person.
Oh, like you care.
Somebody for whom getting up, getting dressed, getting breakfast, things most of us here found easy to do this morning,
you Tories made those people go for reassessments.
For some people, the last few weeks has been deeply frightening.
Are you still paralysed? Yes, I am.
For the uncertainty to finally be at an end. Mr. Speaker, I can genuinely say that I want the Right Honourable Lady to succeed, and I welcome her commitment today to increase the number of reassessments and that more of these will be taking place face-to-face and recorded. I welcome the investment in employment support for disabled people. And of course, I welcome her re-announcing a host of things that we were doing in government. Scrapping the work capability assessment and creating a single assessment. That is already government policy, due to come in 2026-27. Her big idea seems to be to delay this until 2028. What? Merging New Style JSA and ESA into a new time-limited hire rate, a proposal we worked up in government. Tightening up eligibility for PIP, a consultation we launched, and by the way, would have gone much further on. Ending reassessments for people whose health conditions won't improve, we consulted on. Their right to try guarantee
would have done all this.
Sounds remarkably similar to our chance to work guarantee. And of course, her continued support for Workwell, a programme I launched with the now Shadow Chancellor. In fact, the only original idea I can see in their entire announcement is increasing the rate of unemployment benefits. A Labour policy, if ever I heard one. Mr. Speaker, this is a now or never chance to seize the moment, a now or never for millions of people who will otherwise be signed off for what could end up being a lifetime on benefits. But this announcement today leaves me with more questions than answers. How many people will this help back into work? By when? Surely we haven't been waiting 8 months just for another green paper. Where is the Fitnote reform crucial to stem the flow of people onto benefits? Where is the action on people being signed off sick for the everyday ups and downs of life? Why is she only planning to save $5 billion when the bill is forecast to rise to over $100 billion? And do the savings she's announcing today include the $5 billion savings we had already agreed with the OBR for reforming the work capability assessment? Because if so, she has made virtually no savings of her own. What is the saving net of the additional expenditure planned? Fundamentally, this is too little, too late. The fact is...
They were in charge for 14 years.
The fact
and now they're accusing Labour of being too little, too late.
The fact is, $5 billion just doesn't cut it with a bill so big going up so fast. She needed to be tougher. She should be saying, no more hard-working taxpayers funding the family next door not to work. No more free top-of-the-range cars for people who don't need them.
That's
no
not
more
a thing. If you had neighbours that you actually saw from your country estate, you'd know that.
And now, before the Right Honourable Lady puts on her angry voice and leans across the dispatch box to shout at me about 14 years, can I gently say to her that everybody in this chamber and around the country knows that we lost and they won, and now her job is to govern, and it is my job to hold her to account.
Yeah, but you can't say it's too little too late when...
everybody who can work to work. This principle should be at the heart of our welfare system. It is good for the taxpayer, good for the economy, good for the individual and their family who benefit from the security, dignity and purpose that work brings. And it means that those who genuinely cannot work get the support they deserve. But the fact is, fewer people work under Labour. It's happened every time they've been in office, and it's already happening now. They should have taken their time in opposition to come up with some meaningful reforms. They didn't, and the country is already paying the price.
How could they come up with the reforms before they've looked at the books?
Thank you,
and done a
Mr.
proper
Speaker.
assessment by the OBR?
Like the Honourable Lady a great deal, but her entire response seemed to be railing against her own party's failings and lamenting action her party itself failed to take. Too little, too late. It indeed will be the epitaph of the Conservative Party.
67% glasses,
One thing I do agree with is that this is a now or never moment, and I'm proud that this government is taking it, taking decisive action, ducking the challenges that have been ignored for too long. And also, I would say, Mr. Speaker, I'm not interested in being tough. This is about real people with real lives, and we have to be careful how we talk about this. I'm interested in taking the right steps to actually change the system, to transform people's lives, and crucially, to ensure that we have a social security system that lasts in the future. 1 in 3 of us will have a health condition in our lifetimes. 1 in 4 of us is disabled. And unless we as a country in the welfare state, the world of work and all of our public service wake up to that fact, that welfare state that the Labour Party created will not be there for future generations, that is what we are determined to secure. This is a substantial package of measures that will save around £5 billion by 29-30. We will have to wait till the OBR comes up with its final costings on all of this at the spring statement. But I would just leave honourable members with this. The former Chancellor George Osborne said a decade ago, governments let unemployed people get parked on disability benefits and told they would never work again. Why? Because people on disability benefits don't get counted in unemployment figures that could embarrass politicians. The Labour Party isn't embarrassed about this situation. We're ashamed of the state the Tories left the country in. We will face up to our responsibilities. It's time honourable members opposite did the same.
Okay. Chair of the Select Committee, Debbie Abrahams.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my right honourable friend for her statement. I absolutely agree. Our social security system isn't fit for purpose, and I think the measures, particularly in terms of increasing employment support by £1 billion a year, by increasing the standard allowance of universal credit, something unfortunately the opposition failed to do when they were in government, will be really, really positively felt.
Everyone's played cricket.
I also appreciate the difficult financial circumstances we face ourselves, and in spite of the £5 billion being said by the party opposite to be a huge figure, it's actually the largest cut in social security support since 2015. And I would put that there are alternative, more compassionate ways to balance the books rather than on the back of sick and disabled people. I absolutely fundamentally believe that my right honourable friend is on the right course, and I implore my party to try and get our reforms to bed in first before we look to making the cuts, a point that others have also made. There's so much evidence of the adverse effects that the party opposite had with the cuts in support and the restrictions in eligibility criteria when they were in government, including the deaths of vulnerable people. And we can't have a repeat of that. So I would be grateful if my honourable friend could as a matter of urgency, publish the analysis that they've had on the impacts, particularly on mental health impacts, and also to give an outline of when we are expected to respond. Thank you.
I really thank my honourable friend for her response. Let me say straight off, we will be publishing the equality impact analysis and the poverty analysis alongside the spring statement. I know that she is a lifelong champion for sick and disabled people and has rightly raised concerns, including through the Select Committee, on vital issues like safeguarding, and I look forward to receiving the Select Committee's report on that to learn from the evidence they've received. I would just say that although this package is a substantial package with those estimated savings, spending on working age, sickness and disability benefits will continue to rise over this Parliament. The last forecast was that it would continue to rise by £18 billion. It is not a cut, as the Honourable Lady has said. These are really important issues. We need to work to get this right, to make sure the proper support is in place for people, and I really do genuinely look forward to working with the Select Committee to get all these proposals right.
Steve Darling, the Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Okay, I might wrap it up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would first of all like to start by thanking the Secretary of State for sharing her statement in advance. That was extremely welcome. Liberal Democrats want to see more people in work, including those with disabilities. Sadly, the significant blocker for those people getting into work is the appalling state of our health and social care system left behind by the Tories to my right in more ways than one. And we desperately need the new Labour government to drive forward with reforms that actually see an investment in our health service to improve it. The devil is in the detail of these proposals, and I do fear what we will find as we turn over rocks over the next few days, particularly for those who are most vulnerable.
We need to start dissecting this.
The Minister has described the system as a broken system. And so, therefore, I would like to ask the Minister, how are you driving... Chair. How is the Minister driving significant change through this? I fear that this is just tinkering around the edges where we need to see real culture change within the DWP. And also, Mr. Chair, investment in our NHS is absolutely more essential.
She did mention a billion more for the NHS.
I actually agree with the honourable gentleman. We do need extra investment in the NHS and to overhaul the culture of the DWP, and that is precisely what we are doing. We are investing an additional £26 billion into the NHS, an extra £172 million into the Disabled Facilities Grant to help disabled people live independently, £3.7 billion into social care, because that's such an important issue. We do need a decisive cultural shift in the DWP. That's why our Get Britain working plans have announced proposals to overhaul job centres. And we've also said today we need to have a fundamental look at our safeguarding approach. And I would also say this, our Pathways to Work employment support programme genuinely is that. Because for some people, getting out of the house is an achievement. For others, going along to a community group, maybe doing voluntary action, getting skills, that is what we mean. And we will work closely, not only with the NHS and my right honourable friend and social care, but also voluntary organisations who have such a vital role to help people on a pathway to success.
I'm going to just leave it at that. I hope you don't mind, because I want to get into what you think of this. I've been reading your comments as people have been talking. Wayne's pointing out the Tories extended the probation period from 1 year to 2, meaning employers could bin you off for no reason within that time. How's that for job security? Labour are apparently doing away with that in the new employment rights bill that's coming through. Tommy says Jennifer wasn't the Green Party founded by 2 Tory MPs. I mean, I'm not saying that all the Greens that I've ever met have been like posh Tory boys who went to public school, who just didn't want to vote for Tories and couldn't stomach becoming part of Labour, but but some of them. Trojan says, what if you're still on ESA? What if you got epilepsy? What happens now? I'm so confused. Yeah, there's a lot of this. It was quite a dense statement that she read out, but I think the big takeaways for the moment, before we really dig into it, the fact that universal credit claimants on the most severe disabilities will no longer face reassessment. Yes, all day long. I mean, the fact that you had people who were literally paralyzed being asked again and again and again, have your legs started working? And they're like, no, I'm paralyzed for life. What did you think was going to happen? We've also heard horrific stories about people who are terminally ill being forced back into work by this cruel system. Esther McVeigh is on her feet at the moment, carping on. I didn't hear what she said. I'm glad I didn't hear what she said. The other thing is this idea that they're going to move the WCA, which is the Work Capability Assessment, is going to be rolled into the PIP assessment by 2028, which means that it's going to be managed. They're going to find out whether you, what's it called? Assessed. It's going to be assessed based on your disabilities rather than whether you can work, which is good. Like I said, the extra money for the NHS, obviously welcome. The UBI being raised by £775 a year in real cash terms, but that's not till 2029, 2030, so that's still a long way off. But yeah, no reassessment for lifelong disabilities, no vouchers either, allowing people to spend the benefit, spend the money on what they want to spend it on. There's going to be no freeze of the PIP, which the fact that was even leaked or mooted, I think is disgusting, and one of the things that I'm really pissed at Labour at the moment, because it's made a lot of people, Sarah, watching this, feel like scared, feel very, very anxious. And if you're suffering from stress, if you're suffering from anxiety, if you're suffering from depression anyway, this sort of, oh, will they, won't they, for no reason whatsoever for doing that, I find absolutely disgusting. Then you've got this idea they're going to have some personalised support for disabled people, and there's a £1 billion being put aside for employment support, which hopefully means one-to-one people trying to help you get back into work, and the right to try, which is that you can start work without losing your benefits, see how it goes, because a big barrier to work for a lot of people, which is completely understandable, is that you start work, you lose all your benefits. It's you can't do the job, or you don't want to do the job, or because you've got an unscrupulous employer, they decide to drop you after your probation period has ended, and you're back at the very bottom again, applying for your benefits again. And in those cases where you are checking your phone over and over again to see if that payment's gone in, so you can just get on with your life, so you can go buy some fucking food because you're hungry. That kind of thing is something that the Tories they can't envisage. They just can't imagine life could be like that for anyone, because they never had to live it themselves. Right, I'm going to go through your comments here. Let's all volunteer to pay our rent. Corto says to Jennifer, I understand your position. I'm not happy either, but voting Green will only result in more chance of a Conservative government, the worst of all worlds. Well, yeah. Also, the Greens aren't showering themselves in glory at the moment. Two things that the Greens aren't doing. And look, I don't want to get too bloody derailed to talk about the bloody Greens right now. But one is being a big NIMBY and saying, I don't want this built in my backyard, when they're talking about new infrastructure, new green infrastructure for getting electricity that's generated on this island, around this island. But the other one is the fact that they're complaining about not getting as much coverage as REFUC. And I agree that the REFUC's only got 4 MPs. They've got the same number of MPs now as the Greens. Why aren't the Greens on Question Time every other week? Because the Greens aren't very media savvy, and they don't know how to get into all the news every day. And when people are, concerned about the environment, there are ways of getting people on side and getting people to wake up to the fact that there is a climate disaster, a climate catastrophe on its way, but there are things that people can do about it. It's no good just going, oh, it's all the fault of this, it's all the fault of that. It's something that we can all collaborate on. It's something that we can all do something, or even if just a little bit, each person doing something to make that change. And the Greens need to go. I've got this crisis about Labour. Greens need to get better comms. They need to get in the news. They need to get in the news for cool shit, rather than, by extension, they get blamed for stuff that Just Stop Oil do. So if Just Stop Oil stop the traffic in London, the Greens get the blame for it, at least by the electorate and the tabloids and stuff like that. So just have a think about that. Lawrence says this is still in green paper phase, so still early days for the mechanisms of how it all works for now, which is true. You have a green paper, then you have a white paper, then you publish your bill. Leapshin says, good afternoon, everyone. How are we all doing today? It's a bright sunny 7 degrees here in Coilton. What have I missed? Does any this affect Scotland? I don't know, actually. I don't know if this affects Scotland. 4 points in one category means you physically means you can't physically do that category. So this is drilling down into some of the PIP assessment. This is not going to affect the work help that people get, but for the daily living element of that, it's this point system of like things that you can do for yourself. So if you can go to the toilet, for instance, if you can't go to the toilet, if you can clean yourself, etc. I really don't like the way this is like a tick list, just because all people are different. Someone in the chat earlier said about epilepsy. What if it's something that sometimes affects you and sometimes doesn't, but you still need the help? That's one size fits all. I don't think really helps with this. I'd rather proper assessments done that aren't just someone turning up with a clipboard, ticking off 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll see on that one. Do you get a contribution-based new style ESA with universal credit? I got a £700 consul bill tax as it's an income. It's an income. I don't know. Acro Dave, I'm 60 with heart disease, emphysema, and osteoporosis. Employers form an orderly queue. Well, Acro Dave, I mean, not all jobs need to be something where you can't work from home. Like, my partner, she could work in an office, but it's easier for her to work from home. One of the reasons being is she's deaf, and it's easier for her to do a job without having to actually go to an office and try and sit there and try and decipher what people are saying, with her phone in front of her, using Google speech to text. Whereas when she's in a meeting, like a Zoom meeting or something, then it's a lot easier for her. So the companies she works for have made reasonable adjustments for her deafness, and it's paid dividends. Like I gave an example a while ago about when they put on presentations and things, they always have subtitles now. They always have subtitles. They never used to do that. But the people who aren't deaf but maybe have hearing difficulty, or even something like ADHD, which can affect people's attention to a screen without the words coming up, and then if it's something that's happening live and you can't rewind it, the subtitles really help. They really help. So all that kind of stuff is all good. So where's the 5 billion saving coming from, or rather whom, says Billy Kershaw. So let's go into what's happening with universal credit, which is slightly different. So first of all, PIP is not being frozen, but PIP eligibility rules are going to be tightened. Because they say it's not sustainable, they're saying they're not going to means test PIP because disabled people deserve extra support, whatever their incomes, which I completely agree with. That goes down the route of universal basic income. But every day there are more than 1,000 new PIP awards, she said. That's the equivalent of adding the population size of Leicester every single year. That's not sustainable long term for the people who depend on this support, but the Tories have no proper plan, blah, 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 blah. Dig at the Tories, obviously. And then, this idea that universal credit payments are being rebalanced with the standard rate going up. However, some health top-ups are being frozen or cut. Now, the reason why she says she's going to do this, Kendall has said, use the term perverse financial incentives, because people out of work who say they are too sick for work get paid a lot more than other people out of work. I'm not really liking that line, because I think most people who are genuinely too sick to work, it's not their fault, and they do need more support. So what this idea is, they're going to not necessarily freeze PIP, but make it so that the universal credit comes up for everybody. So it's going to be, it's going to be difficult to, I don't know. It looks to me like, I don't know how they're going to get the 5 billion. I don't know where they got the 5 billion from in this. If you can tell me any ideas, I'd love to hear it. It's called promoting, and you get 2 points. You have to have it done for you. It's 4 points simplifying it. Okay. Tim that says, I've got a family that are in the Greens. They care about the environment, but when you drill down, they're really conservative. You shouldn't generalise, but that's my perception. Tim, I've got the same generalisation feeling of the Greens that I know. Generally, they're all a bit richer than the average banana. Jane says, twice I've been told by Pip that I won't need to be assessed again, as my condition will only deteriorate. Then they change their mind under Tory party. It's so stressful. So Jane, one good thing out of this, at least, that's going to stop. That those reassessments, which are ridiculous. If you've got a degenerative illness, like, has it got better? Oh yeah, it cleared up the other day. I got some cream off the doctor. MH carer, mental health can not be assessed in a snapshot window. It has to be reviewed over a period of time. I submitted this last time under Gordon Brown. Yes, MH carer, you're absolutely right. I completely agree with you there. Which is why, this idea of having this personalised support for people seeking work, I think is a very good step in the right direction. And ending this fear of people who can't work because they've been injured at work, for instance, and then they're told they have to turn up at the job centre at 10 past 10 in the morning. The bus is late, or the bus doesn't come, and they arrive a few minutes late, and that's it. They don't get any benefits that month until they get reassessed again. These ridiculous things that the Tories put in on purpose to muddy the waters. Nova is saying there are 6 categories with 8 points available in each. 8 points over all needed for low rate and 12 points needed for higher. Needing 4 in one category is going to remove a lot of people. That's not good. What have we got here? Leapshin. The Greens aren't getting media coverage because refuck get people angry. It's like Neil versus Vivian from the Young Ones, says Wayne. Yeah, yes, it is. Blue Badger, I'm looking forward to seeing what Channel 4 think of this later. Got the feeling they might say something for some reason. Maybe. Kat says, I've been on disability for 11 years. The letter I got yesterday telling me to apply for universal credit within 3 months or I lose my claim. I don't know what areas they're going for when, but it's for all. That to me just seems like crazy. If there's a long-term health issue or degenerative health issue, and they're like, oh no, you got to reassess. And at the beginning of what Liz Kendall was saying there, she was saying that some people can't work and they will be protected, but the people who can work and want to work, we will roll out the red carpet to you to find ways of working. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something that is completely not in your wheelhouse, or something that you just genuinely don't want to do. I hate the idea of forcing people into work for work's sake. It's abhorrent to me. It's like half your life you spend working, and if you're doing a job you hate, it's not living, is it? Kendall says under 22s could be prevented from claiming health top up for universal credit. So she said that the DWP would be spending an extra 1 billion on unemployment support, which is something I've already said. And this would include a tailored and personalised support to help people on a pathway to work, the largest ever investment in opportunities to work for sick and disabled people. Which I really like that idea. I like the idea of having someone who's trying to help you get back into work. I hate the Tory mentality of, we'll take away your benefits and that'll get you working. It reminds me of the book Candide by Voltaire, where he visits Britain and he sees some people in the Navy and they're executing some sailors who've done something wrong, to raise morale. He says, why are you doing this? Oh, we're trying to raise morale. And it's like, I mean, that made no sense in the 1700s. It still makes no sense today. So Kendall said that the reforms she's announced will save more than £5 billion by 2029, 2030. I don't really understand at this point, and maybe you do, if you got this better than me, like where all those savings are going to come from. But she did say the Office for Budget Responsibility will publish an assessment of the savings next week, along with the spring statement. So when we get the budget off Rachel Reeves next week, we might hear more. Sean says the problem being ignored is employers don't want us. We're too expensive. Getting grants in the state to subsidise us doesn't make the bill smaller. I get that, Sean, but there needs to be incentives for businesses to take on people who are disabled and make reasonable adjustments for them. Because look, if you make reasonable adjustments for people who are disabled, then you make reasonable adjustments for all kinds of other people as well. It's not just people who are disabled that you're making their lives better. We talk about disabled ramps. They don't just make lives better for people who are in a wheelchair. They also make lives better for people who are pushing a buggy with a kid in it, or pulling some luggage along behind them, or they're on a bike. I don't know. Like it just makes life easier for a lot of different groups of people, not just people in wheelchairs. Stopping drivers parking halfway across the pavement so someone in a wheelchair can't get past the car doesn't just help the people in wheelchairs. It helps us all, because you shouldn't do that. It's a dickhead thing to do. So if you bring in a law saying, hey, park on the pavement like that, and you block wheelchair access, but it also blocks access for everyone. Making our aisles wider in the cinema and auditoriums in order for wheelchair access to be, to people to be able to get in and out in wheelchairs also helps people get out of the bloody place when there's a fire. All these things. Leapshin says, if you find a job you love doing, you'll never ever work a single day in your life. That's very true, Leapshin. That's why, I don't think I've ever worked. Probably why I don't have a pension. Pain giver, what does this mean for those with chronic depression and anxiety? Slightly worried I'm going to have to apply again. I don't know. At this point, Pain giver. I'd love to be able to give you a bit more reassurance on this, because she went through a lot of stuff very quickly. I don't think there's going to be a wholesale reassessment of everyone, because that would cost a ton of money. So I think that she said that if you are already receiving universal credit, that's going to stay the same. But for new people going on universal credit, things will be slightly different. And she did make the point about those on the most severe disabilities will not face reassessment at all. And this idea of reassessments for people on universal credit, which is separate to PIP, with health top-ups will be beefed up. So what she said was, we will turn these reassessments back on the scale and shift the focus back to doing more face-to-face, and we will ensure that they are recorded as standard to give confidence to claimants and taxpayers that they're being done properly. I agree with that. I agree with the fact that the people who are making these decisions and saying, no, you can't have any benefits this week, I mean, they might be a psychopath who just says that to everyone because they like inflicting pain and suffering on people, and we need to keep an eye on them doing that. So I have no problem with that being recorded. The Tories ran down the value of universal credit standard allowance. As a result, the health top-up is now worth double the standard allowance at more than £400 a month. And in 2017, they took away extra financial help for the group of people who could prepare for work. So this is very much gearing things up so that there's an incentive to actually work. We've talked about this a lot on this channel and even before this channel started, about the fact that for some people it is getting into work is terrifying, because if you're dealing with a disability or you're dealing with a particular mental health problem, and the idea that if it all fucks up, you have to start again at the beginning of all of the benefits process in a hostile environment, which is what the Tories engendered when they brought in austerity. They said we're going to make it so that applying for benefits is an absolute fucking ball ache. So people will do it once, and then hopefully, they'll hopefully never want to go through that process again. But what that does, it locks people in long-term benefits, because there is a disincentive to get work. You can see that if you get a job and you're going to be on less money because the minimum wage is below what you were getting as benefits, then why would you get a job? I wouldn't, But also, I think that a lot of things where the Tories always thought they were saving money, but it was actually costing them money in the long run. I don't understand why we're paying so much money to private care providers to help look after elderly people, when there's people who would look after the elderly people at home, but the carer's allowance is like £49 a week. Like, that isn't going to touch the sides for someone having to pay rent or a mortgage, or having to pay for the lecky. I mean, that wouldn't £49 a week. £49 a week wouldn't pay the electricity, I don't think, in the winter here in Durham. The prices have gone up through the roof. And then you've got council tax, even if you're on solo occupancy, is over £1,000 now. It's an eye-watering sum of money for council tax up and down the country, unless you live in a very, very, very posh place and it's dead cheap for some reason. Okay, I'll get back into the chat now. What I actually heard was I'd likely get a raise in my benefit and support to actually find actually applicable work. Yeah, well, now you're paying, that's what I want to see, because I want applicable work jobs that people want to do, and jobs that they can do, instead of just work for work's sake. I find that so frustrating. It's a mixture to me of the disgusting words above Auschwitz, work brings freedom, and then you had also this Soviet era idea in the Soviet Union that people had to work every day, even if it meant one day they would dig a hole and the next day they would fill it in, because at least they were doing work. And I don't believe in work for work's sake. I find that idea just absolutely abhorrent and inhumane and ridiculous. If there's no job to do, that gives time for hobbies, doesn't it? Like, the ancient Egyptians didn't work every day of the year. They did the harvest, and then they worked on a pyramid half the year because they had nothing else to do. But yeah, I watched the geezer storm out of the job centre because he got sanctioned. Think he's gonna get a job or mug a granny. It's not an incentive. Yeah, I agree, Wayne. I absolutely agree on that. I've had a few crap jobs over the years. However, it's always been jobs I've applied for, not shunted by a DWP operative who's misread the skill requirements. Well, yeah, indeed. Accessibility businesses were given 10 years to make the adjustments under Tony Blair because of costs. Dave says, I hope they ditch the private companies involved in assessment and return activity to medical professionals. Yeah, I hope that too, Dave. But there was one thing that she said that sort of worried me about, when people go for statutory sick pay to instead of the doctors just signing off on it, they'll be sent to an employment advisor. And I'm just hoping that they're going to go down that route. If that's a private company, if that's a private enterprise, because the shareholders need to make money out of human suffering, that can fuck off. So it sounds to me like the savings are all coming from a reshuffle of the available benefit schemes and making PIP much harder to access, says Gallifrey and Wren. I don't know how much harder they're going to make PIP to access, but it looks like for new claimants, it's going to be a higher bar, but also they're bringing down the future PIP claimants comparative with the overall universal credit. So they're bringing up universal credit while bringing the sickness benefit down, sickness disability benefit, PIP. But there's a lot of people who get PIP who are in work, who are working but need that extra money for the disability tax that all disabled people have to pay. because you've got to make modifications to everyday life, which cost money. Ernie Burns, paths to work were devastated by leaving the EU. Training and schemes were funded by Europe. I think they're planning to invest in that and hope it reduces the people in benefits. Yeah, and that might be when they're pointing out that no other country is having these same problems that we have. No comparable country is having the same problem we have with so many people out of work. Yeah, Brexit. It's all there. Brexit. And Sarah says, on top of my mental health illness, I have to deal with an environment that's not trans-friendly, which is why, Sarah, for you and for other trans people, I think that it is really important when companies make it very clear that they support trans rights and support gay rights. Because if they don't, people who are trans, people who are gay, people who, other minorities don't want to go and work in an environment where they're going to be bullied or looked down upon or treated with disrespect. And this goes with disabled people as well. So yeah, a workspace that is accommodating and accepting of different people is absolutely crucial. And if that has to be backed by strong laws that say that companies can't discriminate, then back it up with strong laws saying companies can't discriminate. Do it. You saw in America what happens the minute that the Trump got into power and all these companies like Target and stuff, they all got rid of their DEI policies, which is just an absolute disgrace. They didn't get rid. The Goldman Sachs didn't get rid of its DEI policies, which aren't really DEI. They're more PSM, private school mafia hires, which is basically if your daddy works for the company, you can work for the company too. And so you're not getting the best people. If they're going to say that DEI means you have the best person for the job, which is bullshit, because people who are minorities tend to have to work twice as hard as people who aren't in order to get to the same position in life. But that aside, then you've got to look at the fact that so many people in public life went to public school. So many people in public life went to, Eton, Oxford, Cambridge, Harrow, Winchester, Charterhouse. And it means that the rest of us have to put up with substandard people in these elevated positions. Ancient Greeks did philosophy and art. Well, thank you very much for that. For Persephone, perhaps, if I'm saying that right. Shred Herring. So Liz Kendall was sat next to a private WCA CEO at the Labour conference in November, but notably, it was reported that she didn't have any disability charity stroke advocacy rep in her department. That sounds a bit fucking shit. That's true. Trojan says they need to clarify what this all means. Whilst I work, my partner is on ESA and PIP and is terrified, like so many people in this country, says Trojan. Okay, so the big takeaway of this is PIP is not going to be frozen. PIP is still going to go up in line with inflation, and benefits across the board. The universal credit is going to be increased, and they're doing away with vouchers. So they're big takeaways. So please don't worry too much based on what she's just said there. Just doing away with the pointless reassessment is going to save them a fortune. Do you know what I mean? Like, this isn't just, this is more than just taking money away from people who need it. This is like, which it doesn't sound like they're doing as much as we thought they might. And again, bad Labour comms, don't get me started. But it does sound like by streamlining the way that people claim their benefits, it will cost the government a lot less than fannying around paying people to reassess people who have been paralysed for life to see if they're still paralysed. Wayne says third-party engagement, female genitalia slang, can all do one. Take them away and give them full employment rights. Yes, I agree. I absolutely agree. I'm a big advocate for full employment rights. Amy says, Graham, those companies lie. Yes, I know. And they need to be properly assessed and fined if they're not an inclusive workspace for everyone. Absolutely. There's a way of making some money in it. Who else have we got in the chat? We've got Chris C. The quickest way to reduce the benefit bill is to up the living wage so people don't have to rely on universal credit to top up the wages and impose rent caps on private landlords. 100%. Go to the top of the class, Chris. That's exactly what we need to do. That is exactly what we need to do. I'll just make being a landlord illegal. Felix says people on ESA are no longer exempt from paying council tax. Why? I have no idea. That seems not the step in the right direction by any stretch of the imagination. Verdict and judgment, Graham. Oh God, don't ask me that, Ivan. Thank you very much for the super chat, though. And let me just grab my super chat. Thingy-my-bob, so I can. Oh, hang on. Oh, there it is. So that I can do this, and then I can press this. Ta-da! Thank you, Ivan. Verdict and judgment. My verdict is some of the stuff in this is decent. I'm not happy with a couple of things. I'm not happy with the fact that PIP assessment is going to be more difficult for people getting on board from now on. I am glad that the work capability assessment is going to be folded into PIP. So basically, you're going to be assessed on whether you're disabled or not, or whether you can work. I'm glad that PIP isn't going to be means tested. So that again, it's more bureaucracy that you're getting rid of. But also, if you need PIP, you need it whatever your income is. So I think that's a fairer system. I do like the idea of the right to try scheme, so you can actually work for a bit without losing your benefits. One of the things that I really want to see return is something akin to the New Deal for musicians, which allowed musicians in the UK to keep performing and rehearsing, trying to get signed to a record label, etc., while they were claiming benefits. It wasn't cut. But I just can't help but agree massively with Chris C there, saying what really needs to happen is that the minimum wage needs to be taken up to a point where if you are working, you don't need any benefits on top because you get enough money from work. Why are we subsidizing big companies, big American companies who aren't paying their British workforce enough money to live on? You know, they're not paying a living wage. So we, the taxpayer, have to make up so that the profits of these companies can be bigger so they can make more money for their shareholders in some other country. I mean, I never understand why the petty little racists who get so upset about foreign people coming here and doing work that we don't want to do don't get upset about the fact that we are the foreign countries. America has us over a barrel when it comes to defense. Countries that supply us oil have us over a barrel, literally a barrel of oil. When it comes to energy, like energy self-sufficiency doesn't exist in this country. Food self-sufficiency doesn't exist in this country. We're completely reliant on other countries that may or may not turn evil at any given moment, as we've seen in the US over the recent months. Can everyone like and subscribe? Stops me running my potty mouth in chat. Oh, thank you very much, Wayne. Yes, if everyone could give us a like, that would be amazing. Martin, it was a good hiding practice. Thanks, Graham and chat, for the reinsurance. Trojan, one thing I will say for my judgment, Ivan, it was like we've been talking about on the channel. Phil and I had said this. It's probably not going to be as bad as being made out by the tabloid press. But at the same time, this whole thing is an absolute damning failure of Labour comms. I would rather people have got a bit excited about getting some extra money and then being a bit disappointed that they didn't, than being scared to fucking death that they're going to lose what little amount of money they have to live on. What, to generate some tabloid headlines, to just put the fear of God in people. When it's something as critical as this, I think is disgraceful. I'm really, really pissed off at Labour. I'm pissed off at Labour comms on that side of it. What Liz Kendall has talked about today, most of it looks quite sensible to me. I don't think there's no real howler in here that has got me going, oh my God, what are they thinking? But as has been said by a lot of people already, the devil will be in the detail. So we'll know a little bit more next week when the spring statement is published by or read out in the House by Rachel Reeves, and the OBR assessment comes out as well. So don't be scared, Sarah. By the looks of things, if you're already on PIP, if you're already receiving universal credit, the only thing that's going to happen here is that your payment's going to go up and there's going to be less fucking reassessment every 5 seconds. And it does seem, and I really, really hope I'm not wrong with this, but it does seem that instead of the Tories' mentality of hitting people who are already down with a stick to say, get back to work. Hopefully that's getting done away with. And this is a lot more carrot than stick. And it's like, if you get a job as well, you can keep your benefits for X many months while you work. That's a hell of an incentive. Gallifreyan Ren, I'm concerned they'll make PIP more difficult for reassessment too. Well, I'm off to prepare my dinner and play with my virtual train set. Oh, cool. Cool, Gallifreyan Ren. I like hearing that. And who else have we got in the chat? We've got Wayne saying, I'll proper hold my tongue in chat on the show on Friday. Tad sweary, but only after someone breaks the seal. Don't break the seal. Corto says, my big problem with Labour is that the language coming from them about disability sounds very much like the message coming from Tufton Street, cold and dehumanising. Corto, I don't know. I feel like the way, what I just talked about there, about them not being straight with people from the start about what was going to happen and causing undue stress to people was right out of order. I completely agree with that. But when Liz Kendall stood up, then one of the first things she said was, there are people who aren't working who could, and we want to help them get back into work. And there are people who aren't working because they can't. And we want to make sure that they get all the support they need, because some people just literally can't work because of their disabilities. And I'm hoping that is the new way of how this is done. This doesn't look like austerity to me. And look, maybe in weeks or months in the future, you might play this little clip back to me and go, Graham, you dickhead, what are you talking about? But this doesn't look anything as draconian as anything that the Tories ever did, because they were just out to penalise people for being unfortunate, because they're the lucky ones. The Tories are the ones who were born with a silver spoon up their arse. The rest of us, one bit of bad luck and it can derail our entire lives. And they can't even begin to imagine what it's like living just paycheck to paycheck, universal credit payments, universal credit payments. They have no idea what it's like. They've got no idea of the mental stress that puts on people. And I'm hoping that this, I'll have to read more about it. Look, I'll put my hands up now and say, I'm not completely okay. You watched the same thing that I did in real time. But by the looks of it, it doesn't look like austerity 2.0 to me. And I hope that, when the details come out, the devil's in the details, it's proven not to be, because there are a few things that have happened in this country that, there's been a few things I should say that have happened in this country over the last 15 years that have been absolutely morally bankrupt, as just to kind of take my breath away at just how vindictive and cruel the Tories can be. And the first one is austerity. The second one is Brexit. Third one is the reaction to COVID. And the fourth one is Liz Truss. Just Liz Truss. Just hair. Just that. She's a moral vacuum. Is this enough to get Britain back on target? Is it going to revive our economy? I don't think it will. I think the damage that Brexit has done is really fundamental. And if you want £40 billion a year more to spend on stuff, join the EU tomorrow. Rejoin the EU tomorrow. And just before I go, can I just make a plea to anyone who hasn't already done it, or even if you have done it, can you please share it? This is the petition for applying for the UK to rejoin the European Union as a full member as soon as possible. This is going to be debated on the 24th of this month. Okay, so just in 6 days' time, this is going to be debated in Parliament. There's only 132,000 signatures at the moment. That's not a newsworthy story. If it got 1 million signatures, it would be a newsworthy story. And please don't say, oh yeah, but petitions never work. They sometimes do. Jamie Oliver's worked for school dinners. The petition for dropping the debt, the Jubilee 2000 petition, that worked. Okay, I know there was a lot of other factors, but it isn't about this actually happening, right? This is more to do with two things. One, getting some publicity for the fact that they're debating something that has got 1 million signatures in Parliament. But secondly, when the Lib Dems stand up in Parliament and say we should rejoin the EU, look, 1 million people agree with us. Okay? It's what we need to do. Thank you very much for the super chat. Ivan, thank you. £10 super chat. The lead up to the day with endless speculation as a combination of bad Labour comms, press and media loudmouths has been unforgivable on the damage to people's mental health. Yeah, couldn't agree more, Ivan. Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that, mate. And yeah, we've been saying this for a while, haven't we? Just like, Labour, sort out your comms. If I'll put the link onto the petition there if you do that. Anne says, I signed the rejoin petition and wrote to my MP to tell her about it and they recommend. Haven't had a response, but then I didn't ask a question as such. Well, fair enough. Stay tuned for details. I seriously hope that my interpretation is incorrect. Good luck, everyone, says Shred Herrings. Was we have a trolley trolling Ivan? What? Totally. And school dinners were the children's fund before Jamie Oliver nicked it. Yeah. And Wayne says he just posted it to his Blue Sky account. Yeah, if everyone could do that, that would be boss. Oh, Jennifer Powell says you just wasted £10 on this dickhead. Oh, Jenny, you're so sweet. I love you. You're the best. See why I got so many friends. Okay, right, I'm off now. I'll be back at 7:30 tonight for Geoscope, where we'll be talking. I say talking. We'll be going about the state of the world. So join us for that if you want, or if you've got some better to do. Feel free to go and do that. Ivan, thank you very much for wasting another £5 on me, you lovely man. My autism petition needs much more help. Ivan, if you get me the link to that, I'll try and put it onto the description on the video tonight if you remind me. Jennifer has a job. She's a professional malcontent. Malcolm-tent. Anyway, look, I'll speak to you soon, okay? And you all take care of yourselves and each other. Everyone watching this and all the people, lovely people in the chat, Jennifer included. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.